All right. Well, if any of I just started recording because I thought this was an interesting conversation. If anybody's into zombies, Mike can put you onto some series that just dropped. What's it called, Mike?
We got to get ready. We have to prepare ourselves. It could happen. You ain't gonna what if we hit the slow zombies and they be trucking? You see what I'm saying? We got to get ready. You ain't wait for nobody to save you. You have to be prepared.
Okay. So be prepared during the zombie apocalypse. Got it. So yes, Britt.
About to say that's the first gem of the episode.
Yeah. So as always, we would like to welcome all of our listeners. This is our spinoff series. No, this is season.
Oh, this is.
I was about to do the whole wrong intro. Okay. So we want to invite you all on this episode. We have Mike Willz back with us from The Safe Spot. We had him on for the grief series where we talked about grieving expectations, and that was like super, super dope. I know Mike touched a lot on his journey with becoming like a single father, and that was just, you guys go back and listen to that when you get the chance. But today we're going to be talking about self-image. Mm-hmm. That can be broad, that can be specifically detailed, but I definitely feel like now more than ever with the era of social media we live in, self-image is just, there's so many different sides, and I feel like we teeter and totter between like what's building self-image and what looks like low self-esteem now. Like it's hard to define like that line now. It's just people are expressing themselves and exhilarating themselves in different ways. So I think this is going to be just great to get back to the core of things, like where self-image stems from, or like being self-confident and all those things. And we thought, who else than Mike Willz, the continued person who's always trying to reinvent himself and be confident and boost himself, especially with your barriers that you go through as a Black man and as a father, doing it by yourself. Well, you have your support, but as far as like the mother-father dynamic. So yeah, I'm excited. Brittany, how you want to jump?
So I wanted to throw this question out because even when I was trying to reflect on the episode, like my mind was just going so many places. So I wanted to ask y'all, like, when you hear self-image, because Shawana, I think you just did a great way of setting up the fact that social media has kind of altered not only our perception, but I think what we think when we hear like, somebody's image, what kind of image you're, portraying. So like when you hear self-image, like what is that for y'all? Like how do y'all define like self-image? Like what do you think of when you hear that?
You wanna go, Mike?
I think the definition of self-image is not only really how you see yourself in your mind's eye, but also when you see yourself in your mind's eye, like how does that make you feel, right? Like I think there's an image that everybody wants to have, but it's like the reality in our own head doesn't even really reflect like actual reality. So like when you ask yourself, how do you see yourself? For a lot of us, especially in this age where we see a lot of comparisons between people, what you have and what you don't have, usually most people's self-image is a little bit lower than we are like in reality, right? So for me, self-image is one, how you see yourself, and immediately like that first feeling you get when you think about it, how does that make you feel?
So I'm going to take what you said a step further. When I think of like true self-image, I think it's how you see yourself when you're at your lowest points. And I said that because while I know like, the devil can play on our mind, emotions can play on our mind, but I think like what we truly think about ourselves and how we see ourselves, I think that comes out like when we're stressed, when we're at low points in our lives. So I think we teeter between like our everyday self-image of like, oh, this is how I see myself versus like when shit hit the fan. No, this is really, really what I think about and how I see myself. So I think those low points are just like a brutal, like honest time for us. And I think that is a place maybe where you should start when you like really trying to assess, like, how do I see myself? Like, what do I think I'm capable of? Like, all of that really comes out like at the worst times and moments. So I think we have a version of like our everyday self when things are okay. But I also think we truly define and live by like those bad moments. We just tuck that stuff away when everything is okay. So yeah.
I agree with both of you guys as well. And so, and to go a little bit of a step further. So those two things combine, and then how you choose to show up once you realize that. So I feel like maybe we just hit 3 different stages of self-image. The feeling of how you feel, that real when nobody else is there around, like you said, when you think about you and visualize yourself, that feeling you get. Brittany's processing, well, how does it come out? Like, what does that portray as when you're at your lowest? Like, okay, this is my real thoughts. There's nothing to facade it. I'm not comparing myself or trying to show up a certain way for other people, but this is just me and this is how I feel. And then how you choose to both react to that, respond to that, and show up like in your everyday life.
So with that being said, where did y'all's like, I don't want to say where did your self-image come from? But like, how did you start learning about, I guess, self-image or like the way people see you? Like, what were some of those either moments or things that either like your parents or family or people said to you that kind of shaped like how you saw yourself or how others should see you? I'll throw that in there too. Anyway.
I feel like for like as far as back as I can remember, and this is something that I had to like unlearn and find balance in with my life. I know from other people, it's always been this expectation on me to like always show up. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like, oh, you're so smart, or you're so this, or you have this in you, and you're around people feel like this, like you do this for a lot of people. It was like always the expectation to be like, I don't know, like be there for people, to show up for people, to be this light despite of everything that's going on. Like, I feel like ever since I was a little girl, that was kind of like, I always heard people talk to me in those type of ways, like, oh, this, you know, and so it kind of made me feel like, well, dang, this is how I need to always show up. And it made it very hard for me to resonate with negative feelings. And maybe it made it hard to resonate with negative emotions. Like that stuff I feel like is wrong. Well, not as of now. Now I let myself fully feel all my emotions, but before it was like I would literally just kind of push those to the side so that I could try to always be positive or always, you know. I feel like that altered my self-image in a lot of ways, because then it made me feel like, well, dang, am I really these things? Because I'm struggling with trying to balance these emotions that don't mirror what everybody has told me I am. So how do I, like, nobody taught me how to deal with that stuff. It was just, oh, you're so this, and this is what you need to be. So I feel like I struggle a lot because of that expectation.
Interesting.
For me, I think actually you spend, and I can only talk about my experience as a Black man, you spend the majority of childhood being taught to be emotionless, right? So when we are born into this world, the very first thing we're told at a very young age is be a man, right? Like be a man, be a man. Men don't cry, men don't this, men don't that. And so for us as men that were blessed enough to have a male father in the home, you only really saw your father at his strongest moments. I never saw my father at his weakest, right? I never saw my dad cry. I never saw my dad be weak. I never saw my dad be emotional. I never saw like none of that. I always saw like this just wall, you know what I mean? That was just strong all the time and smart all the time, move all the time, and knew how to direct itself and how to talk to people. You know what I mean? Just all of these different traits that as a kid, I didn't know how to implement that for real. You know what I mean? So from that standpoint, you're trying to copy something that you don't have any experience in. It's like trying to watch somebody work on the airplane and then you trying to go work on the airplane, but you don't have no experience in how to do it, right? So I made a lot of mistakes in that regard. And then I think only within the last, like maybe 10 years, 8 years is where I'm starting to be comfortable and feeling stuff. You know what I mean? But even with that, it's like, all right, like self-work now because I'm feeling this emotion. Like, what does this emotion mean? How do I explore that? How do I know what's going too far with it, what's not going too far with it? How should I react to this? And then at the same time fighting all of the things you were taught, like these emotions are like a weakness, or you're not supposed to act like that. You're not supposed to feel like that, you know? So for me, it's been like this dichotomy, like recently, like trying to figure out in that self-image, do I want to be how I was raised, which a large portion of me automatically relates to, or am I trying to create this new figure now who's like emotionally aware? If all of that makes sense.
Oh, that was kind of deep. So mine is twofold. My parents had me a little bit later in life. So both of my parents are baby boomers. So both of my parents are from segregation, integration. So anytime I see those tweets about how Black kids don't get to have that innocence of, you know, not knowing what like race and stuff is, I definitely resonate because I heard that very, very early on about how people may not like me or treat me different because of the color of my skin. My daddy did not let me have nothing but Black doll babies. So for me, like, I appreciated that. I still appreciate it to this day. However, it made me like kind of hyper focus on it as a child because I appreciate them preparing me for that. But at the same time, it was just kind of like, I didn't have a choice but to be aware of it. So I felt like very early on, I was always so aware of my skin color versus somebody else's skin color. And it was just weird as a kid trying to process the fact or even worrying about the fact, am I being treated differently or is something happening because I'm Black? Mm. So it just, like, it didn't necessarily affect my self-image in a negative way. I just felt like I just didn't get that, which y'all can probably relate to. I just didn't get to have that ignorance of just like, you know, being somewhere, being a kid, not really worried about how other people are perceiving me or looking at me. And then kind of like to piggyback off of what both of y'all said, I too kind of felt like my dad was big for like showing up for people. So I also struggled with the fact that I was supposed to, what's the word? Be seen as like a person who shows up and how positive of a character trait that is. But nobody really talks about the self-sacrifice that comes with that or like how people take advantage of that. So I always struggle with like, oh my God, if I don't show up as this, like what are people going to think of me? And I still feel like up until maybe the last 2 years, that was something that always bothered me. Like, oh my God, I'm going to be perceived negatively if I don't do X, Y, Z for these people. And then even what you said, Mike, my parents had their gender roles were kind of switched in the house. So my mom was not very emotional. So for me, it was like, okay, so women are like strong to a fault. Like I felt like she only cried like maybe if somebody died. She was like real pissed one time and I remember seeing her cry, but I probably can count like on one hand how many times I've seen that. So I too struggled with the whole, like I would not cry in public when I was younger. Like that was just so embarrassing to me. Like you do not show that kind of emotion in public. You're going to be seen as weak. Like what in the world could be that wrong that I would have to cry in front of somebody? So I also think, here I go, self-image. I'm worried about somebody's perception of me showing emotion. Like who even cares about that? But I was taught early on indirectly, you don't do that. Like if it's something that bad, you need to handle that at home and that needs to be that. So all this kind of, I felt like while they definitely built me up to have confidence in myself, I still was always so focused on like how other people perceive me based on XYZ. So I felt like it was a catch 22 a lot of the time. And I still have not resolved all of that. Most of it has, I've been unlearning it, but definitely a lot of attention on how other people saw me or perceived me has pretty much played a role in my self-image. So yeah.
So I don't know if y'all can relate, but I know listening to like our similarities, that made me, I showed up strong, like Brittany said, because I've always seen Black women in my life fighting in some way, shape, or form, either fighting for their job, fighting for their family, fighting for their kids, because stuff like it, Black women, we did an episode, Empowered versus Strong, like that too. So I showed up on the outside very much so like strong and capable to do these things and resilient. But a lot of times, like going back to what Brittany said, in them low moments, I always felt like I wasn't good enough, or I felt like I'm good enough through certain periods, but at some point I'm gonna fumble again. Like I'm gonna mess it up because it's so much, and I do good at juggling for a minute, and then eventually everything just comes like falling down because nobody taught us like balancing the yin and the yang, so that you're not even juggling, you're just kind of like going through life and learning and experiencing. So would y'all agree that like a lot of self-image that we perceive just from like, not even just from like family and people around us, but like watching TV, movies, what they show us in society, that it can definitely make you feel like unworthy, or like you're not, or you don't have everything you need, or unequipped, or like you're constantly gonna like be a letdown, even if it's so small, like in some way, shape, or form.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And then not even just with like the outside media, like even some of the stuff, all the stuff that we have spoken to, you are just talking about like generational trauma of Black people. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, how we're represented on television, like all of that literally continues to shape who we are, how we see ourselves, and how we see other people. Like, I saw this TikTok. It was funny, but it was sad at the same time. So it was this Black girl, and she was like, how I look in a room full of white people. And she was like, I don't care. So then she was like, how I look if somebody Black walk in, and like she started fixing herself. So of course, people were laughing in the comments, and they were just kind of like, why are we like that? Like, and we kind of like, it's like, girl, I mean, they don't know nothing about like, how my hair look, they don't know nothing about that. But if you see another Black person, like you kind of like, yeah, like, like how do I look? So I think it's crazy. I feel like how much our image is just influenced by factors we literally have no control over, like whatsoever. Like they still like have a heavy impact on us, literally from us just being born. Like, yeah.
I agree.
I think a lot of that comes from just a quick shout in. I think a lot of that even comes from how we was conditioned when we was young. Like, I didn't have cable back in the day, right? When I was growing up in Norfolk, they didn't have cable, but it was this one music station you could watch all the videos on. It was called The Box. Yeah, it was called.
That was my shit.
That I look back, so let's think culturally for like music videos, right? If you watch a Black music video, it's always like name brand stuff, name brand cars, name brand hairs on, everything is perfect, right? Bro, you watch a country music video, it'd be like a $10 shirt, lane set, you know what I mean? Like beer everywhere, whatever the case may be. And I just think like culturally, we've always been taught from a young age, before social media even came into the picture, like when people see you, you're supposed to look like this. You know what I mean? Like even my father was telling me when I was young, hey, look, you walk to the mailbox, you look good. Spray color, because you don't never know who you gonna run into, was the thought pattern we was always, taught. Tradition that has come from like a supremely young age. I think social media reinforces it for the next generation, but already been here, and we're the main culture that does it, if not the only culture that does it.
Yeah, a pressure immediately to like look sharp, polished, Like, and it's crazy because while they feed it to us, naturally white people are like that. Like it's culture for them to always be prim and proper. Like that's their culture. And that's not our culture, but they shove it down our throats as far as like material wise, I feel like. And I feel like, all that stuff is strategic, I feel like in my head, but I never thought about it that way because you don't really see, of course, like in pop culture, but you don't see a lot of that glorified, like you said, if you watch like country and stuff like that. None of that stuff is even the focus. It's always what the depth of the song is, the words. So I feel like as Black people, I feel like we have to be even creative with the way we, I guess, portray even our stories. Because I remember watching The Box too, and a lot of the music videos are back then, most of them were like shot in the hood. So it made us proud to be hood boogers. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this is what's like, this is fine. And then, but at the same time, showing the glamour, but they don't show you how to, what that in between gap between get from here to here. It's just like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it's like a split of two things for me. So, of course, this comes from early on of, us starting to get rights, us starting to be able to work. You have to impress. You have to show these people, these white people, you are capable. And while we have come so far, we are still very much so living in times where, I mean, now it's not just white people, it's anybody. We are still in the mindset that we need to impress. We need to show these people, like, I got it too. I got the money. I got the money. Like I am worthy of whatever you think. Like, I got it. I'm good. Then the other side of it for me too is like, why can't we show that side? Because, white people are, oh, I'm building this space like in my backyard, like with, but if we do it, it's like, oh, they always like trying to brag or something. Mm-hmm. So then I feel like it becomes like a negative thing, but it's like you said, Shawana, like they do it too. They just do it in a different way. But I feel like sometimes ours is rooted in trying to or show somebody that like I have it. Even this whole shit with them spelling the words with the money on the floor. Like, okay, yeah. We know that you have lots of money, you have cash, you can spell an abundance of words. We understand that. But like sometimes it's just ridiculous. And I feel like people laugh at us for stuff like that because it's like, what are you trying to prove and who are you trying to prove it to? Like people are well aware that, you have money, you're rich, you're wealthy, whatever the case may be. But I feel like a lot of it is rooted in us having to show up in a certain way because if we didn't, then we just weren't seen as worthy or, nobody was going to take a chance on somebody that was Black. So it was just all, if I get, my outfit together, I get my hair right, like maybe these people will take a chance on me. And I feel like it has just kind of snowballed into something else, but still just a lot of focus on impressing and wanting people to know like we got it too. So I don't know. It kind of sucks, but yeah.
I feel like too, what started off as, if you think about the way that we, I guess, used to nurture each other as a family, like way back in indigenous times, I feel like what went from what was just about feeling excellent from the inside turned into like on the outside, like you said, materialism, instant gratification, how you look, how is your hair done? Because, we were very much so very natural then. And so it's like, oh no, you need to slick that down. You could be excellent, have the skills, the traits, even the verbiage, but you don't look like it. So I need you to dress this up. So I feel like it kind of got shifted when I'm trying not to be deep, but like colonization and stuff like that. So
it is.
Yeah. But so as we're talking, like this stuff is just coming to me. I'm like, wow, I never really put the, like two and two together. But this segues to what I wanted to ask next. So with everything we have going on, all the stimuli, social media, society, cultural barriers, do you feel, how hard or how easy do you feel it is to maintain like a positive and healthy self-image during this time? And how do you do it personally?
It's I'm gonna be honest and transparent, like completely wholehearted, 100%. It's a struggle.
Yeah.
It really, really, really is. As far as like self-image, like your outside image, what goes on is it's a struggle. I think because one is like, so it's like to put it for this example, it's like playing a video game, right? But you went through like half of the game with none of the tools you needed to win. You know what I mean? And then like somewhere in the halfway point, you finally figure out like what it takes. But it's like you halfway through the game, like I didn't wrap up all this experience. I don't know how to utilize this stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like trying to go through life while at the same time teaching yourself stuff that you really should have had at the beginning to get where you at now, right? Already been indoctrinated with all of this stuff. How do I now change how I look at myself when I've been seeing myself a certain way for so long, right? So as far as me, it's like I got to be present as a dad. And sometimes I'll be like, dang, man, I feel like I'm failing. And that's hard. You know what I mean? Because I saw this perception of my father and I never seen him fail. Like if he was failing, I ain't know. You know what I mean? So now it's like being a dad and feeling like, sometimes I feel like I don't show up for my son in the way I'm supposed to. I don't know how to deal with that, right? I think even as a man, like with relationships, 32 years old, you ain't dating, you ain't married, and it's like, all right, so is that the right move? Because I'm still building, right? Was I supposed to be in something? Should I have been married by now? A lot of other people is married, you know what I mean? So you deal with that competitiveness. Materialistic views where you see other people who is around your age and whatever, and they have, and you don't have some things. And I think it's very easy for us to tell ourselves, well, don't look over there, focus on what you got, right? Don't look over there, focus on what you got. It's a very easy statement, but I also feel like sometimes we have to be honest, like, all right, I do feel a way because I don't have, or I do feel a way because this isn't going on, or I do feel a way like I'm plugging at something over and over and over again and I can't make it happen. So it's a struggle. For me personally, it's something I have to work on a daily basis because it's so easy to be like, man, you fucking up. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't no good. Like, you should have been here. You ain't there. You got to do this. You ain't doing that. You said you was going to make this happen. It ain't happen. Like, what's up? You know what I mean? And it's like you beat yourself down so hard about not being consistent or not being present or not showing up, you know what I mean, in all areas. So it's a struggle. And it's something that I have to work on, like, consistently. How I work on it, books, you sometimes you can't get that knowledge within yourself. So you got to go to a source outside of yourself, right? So books, videos, positive music, whatever I can do to kind of find things to combat those thoughts. But it takes work. It takes extreme effort.
I would agree 100%. And I think that goes back to what I said in the beginning. For some reason, those low points define us. They really, really, really define us. Like I have told people 10 times over, if something happens or if I do something that is out of my character, anything that I have accomplished is like forgotten about. Like that stuff, I don't even know that I've done anything in my 31 years of being on earth. The thing that matters right now is where I fucked up at. Like that is just, that becomes that's what I'm focused on. So I agree. I think it's like an everyday thing to, be present, be, focus. What can I control? What am I doing right? I think having that mindset, like you have to constantly work on that because I don't know if it's because the way the human mind is and the way we have memories or the way, trauma affects our brain. But it's kind of like if you aren't aware of that stuff, your past and that stuff you didn't do right can literally just eat at you in so many ways. So I think having any kind of positive self-image, body image, any kind of image, anything, it's like a daily, like, yeah, you got to work at it. That's not nothing that, you go to therapy like twice and it's like miraculously fixed. It's like something you have to constantly be aware of. Long as life is happening to you, like you have to just be aware of it. Because like I said, that old stuff, that bottom of the barrel, that stuff that really has hurt us, like we, for whatever reason, that's how we define ourselves. How I combat that, definitely therapy, trying to be present, trying to focus on. One thing my parents have really ingrained in me is like trusting myself to make decisions. Like they'll be like, you know, Brittany, you have navigated XYZ before, like you're gonna be fine. So even sometimes like I just need to trust myself and trust the process, like not getting caught up in what I don't have or what ain't or what is. Like I just need to trust the process. So sometimes I just gotta be, for me, it's really, really staying present and focused on like right now. Because if I get in the past or if I start worrying about the future too much, it's just a lost cause. So my biggest thing is, yeah, being in the moment and yeah, whatever I feel like I need to work on, like being aware of that kind of stuff and being honest with myself. Cause I just feel like you know, like what eats at you, you know what you think about yourself, you know, the things that you kind of feel like define you. So I feel like in that sense, it's also on you to make sure, you know, you are aware and working on that stuff and not projecting or being at our big age and still blaming people for stuff that happened when we were 5, 6, and 7 years old. Like, should they be accountable? Absolutely. But you get to a certain point in life, it's on you to, you know, work on that kind of stuff. So that would probably be it for me.
Agree as well. It's definitely an everyday thing. I used to think what you had to do to maintain your self-image and health way was hard, but really it's the consistency it's being consistent with it that's hard. And it's and that comes from not feeling like you're worthy to do the healthy stuff, because you're used to, the comfort is in being a victim. The comfort is in, this is always happening to me. The comfort is in, I can't balance these emotions. We get comfortable with saying and coming to truth. We don't feel worthy of the next step though, I feel like. And that is where the inconsistency comes from. Because like, I know with me, my patterns was always, I would do the self-help books for a while. I would get this burst of energy and creativity and I'm doing it and I'm doing, but then like because life is gonna do this. That's just how it does. When that thing shows up, and sometimes it's not even as big as it is, but because like I said, that worthiness from the inside, when it comes, everything gets shaken and it crumbles. And it's like, here I am, this victim again. So it's, for me, in order to combat the inconsistency and in order to, I have to first tell myself what I have to do isn't hard. I just got to make a decision to show up every day. And having grace that sometimes showing up won't look hyper positive. It might just look like I got out my bed, I made it, and I went and had a rest day on the couch. But I showed up because the unworthiness in me wanted to stay in the bed, but I got out the bed. So it's also being realistic with what does showing up for look like on this day. So I totally agree. I think the consistency of having to maintain self-image is the hard part. But the tactics you can use, I feel like they aren't hard at all. You just got to do them. Like for me, it's practicing mindfulness. I always talk about that, like whatever that looks like reading as well, listening to podcasts. I meditate, I do yoga. I try to go in nature, or I'll like even right now sit by the window where the sunlight is coming out. I try to do stuff like that naturally makes me feel better. So that, taking time to rest, honing in on what I'm good at too. So doing passion projects, and doing it not because I'm trying to achieve something. No, I just enjoy podcasting. Somebody get a pen podcast. No, I just enjoy meditating, and I'm a weirdo. So I'm doing it because I like doing it. So I know when I feel good, I do better. So I have to intentionally do stuff to make me feel good. I used to meditate first thing in the morning. I still do in a form of way, but now more so because of like the nature of my job, I play like music in the morning because music is vibrational and it gives you this upbeat tempo. So that's how I start my day with something upbeat, because sometimes in meditation that can make you go introspective and reflective, and then you kind of like mellow and all emo. So I've even had to learn to balance that. So yeah, those are just some of the ways that I I maintain it, but it's definitely a struggle. I agree.
Question for the both of you: do you feel that we don't like the in betwixt, like the in between stage?
We don't.
Between don't I feel like we talk so much about the journey, but inherently like we hate the journey, right?
But we're supposed to. That's supposed to be the funnest part, though.
Exactly, but we never look like that. You know what I mean? Never look at it like that. I think there's like point A and point B, and we imagine everything about point B. Like they think now, they tell us to manifest point B, speak over point B of what you want, say your affirmations for point B, right? But there's still like this stage to really see all of that fruit come to bear. You know what I mean? And not to get preachy, but I feel like there's certain terminology, like there's universal laws. You know what I mean? Like such a man thinketh, so is he. Power and life and death in the tongue. But I feel like we hate that stage of getting from where we are right now to where we going. I was up last night, like after the zombie apocalypse movie, scrolling through Instagram. So I'm tell you somebody I feel like, and people say he crazy, but I feel like regardless of where he's at, sometimes he always speaks positive of himself, and it shows. Is like, and this is off topic, but Kanye, right? So we remember like a couple years ago, Kanye went broke. Like he went bankrupt. He ain't had nothing. He was absolutely broke. Everything about his life, like he, like he lost everything. He was broke, went bankrupt. And he came out, he started saying like, I'm a god. You know what I mean? I'm amazing. I'm the best. I'm this, I'm that. Even though where he was at that point in time didn't reflect any of these statements he was saying, but he consistently came out and people was like, oh, you're crazy. Like, you broke and that you saying you a god. That's crazy. But then now we look at him, $9 billion. You know what I mean? His clothing line failed. Nobody believed in his clothing line. They said it was homeless clothes. He keeps saying this was going to be great. It's going to be awesome. Nobody believed in it. He spoke positive. Now he got to deal with Gap that made him a billionaire. You see what I'm saying? So like, I think we have to get more inclined to, even though it doesn't look like what we want it to look like right now, instead of worrying so much about always getting to point B, we got to start speaking so positive that we draw point B to point A, if that makes sense.
So 2 things. I knew you were talking about Kanye when you first started talking. So I think that speaks to your point. Like he is definitely somebody who rain, sleet, snow, hell, earth, like ain't nobody better than me, like period. But so funny we're having this conversation. Me and my husband was talking yesterday, and I told him I was pissed by how the days fell, because I was like, they could have paid us on Friday, but I was like, watch I not get paid till like Saturday or Sunday. So I had to get something, and I was like, I had to put it on my credit card or whatever. So he kind of was like, what? Why would you be using your credit card? Like, Brandon, I was like, I can pay the money back when I get paid. I was like, I just ain't have it right now. I was like, this won't like when we first got married and niggas was just using credit card because we ain't had no money. And he started laughing. He was like, good times. And I was like, good times where? But you're absolutely right. Like when I think about us first being married and being broke, like I hate thinking about that. That is a chapter that I don't even know exists. We were in North Carolina. That chapter of our marriage just did not happen. But like I should be appreciative of like us being where we were and like us being like where we are now. But we hate the journey. We hate like them rugged, rough moments. Like we really love to embrace and praise where we are versus like, yo, like one time, like we just ain't have it like at all. So while that should be celebrated, like we made it through those moments, like, yeah, no, that stuff just like kind of just don't exist in my mind, but it definitely happened. But who wants to talk about that? Like, no, we need to focus on this great life, like right now. But yeah, there's so much character in those low moments. So
yeah. I remember my old pastor talking about how when him and his wife first started, like they were trying to make sure they maintained the importance of like, we need the vacation once once you're the family. So he said they would make the sacrifice to go on vacation. He said the lights might be cut off when they got back home. He was like, they'd be sitting in the bed scrolling through the pictures in the dark. Like, man, that was a good morning.
We've been on vacation now, so.
Hey, that ain't tickled me, but it's true though. It's true though. And that's something I feel like God has really been dealing with me about. You don't have to hate the experiences that shaped you though. Like we do, but we don't have to. Like we really don't. Like that shit happened for a time and a moment. It served its purpose. Thank God it's over. But I don't have to I don't have to disdain it. I can embrace the fact that that is where I was and this is where I am. And I feel like that's what helps you stay present and helps you gratitude, being able to push through that sucky feeling and just express gratitude. Because even though I don't have everything, I'm not where I was and I'm not where I want to be. I'm still good right now. Because if you think about it, in the moments, there was something worse that could have been going on when we were right then. And we felt like, well, dang, well, at least you can always express gratitude. So.
It was. To close out, I know we listed some things that we kind of do to help ourselves, but any words of wisdom, kindness, advice to anybody listening and they just feel like they have just had not I would say the normal ongoing struggle with self-image, but seriously struggling with maybe how they see themselves. Anything you want to say to the listeners to close out?
I think you are where you say you are, and you are who you are, and you're gonna go where you say you're gonna go. I know it's very hard sometimes looking at yourself, especially when you're outside, having such a huge impact on your inside, right? And it's very difficult to be imaginative about a bright future or about looking at yourself or seeing yourself as a better person. When nothing around you is reflecting that. But if I could speak from any type of experience, is you got to talk to yourself. And sometimes you got to tell yourself to shut the hell up. Mm-hmm. It's like, not worthy, I'm not, nah, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? You are. And you have to reiterate that. You have to get used to combating yourself. Mm-hmm. Because not all this stuff around us, everything that's happening to you, all the situations that you go through, like it happens and there's nothing you can do about it. But the only thing that you can change is, okay, like as I'm going through this and once it's over, the only thing that I can control is how I view me, right? Situation, like not what they said, talked about, not how other people view me, not what the discussion is, but when I talk to Mike, what does Mike think of Mike? You see what I'm saying? Worst thing you can do is agree with all the other bullshit that's being said. So if everybody else and everything around you is like, yo, you ain't it, it's at least got to be one voice like, nah, player, we on. You know what I mean? It may not look like we on, but we gonna get there, right? And it's gonna be a better day. And then also reminding yourself, I feel like, and I'm gonna shut up, I feel like sometimes we get to a point, right, that's so low, but you forget that you climbed the biggest mountain to get to this valley. Yeah. Right? It'd be like we was at the pinnacle of something that it took us like years to achieve. Yay! But then it's like we don't celebrate ourselves when we hit those pinnacles. It's like, all right, I grabbed one breast. Next one. Yeah, now let me go to the next one. But you forget that on the previous journey, you hit a low to go up. So if anything, to remind yourself, like, wait, I was in a spot like this before and I made it. So why should I sit here now and wallow when last time I climbed the mountain, I'm gonna climb this motherfucker too? But we never want to like remind ourselves. We never want to look back and see how far we came. So that's another thing. Like just remembering how long it took you to get where you got, and it is a journey, and it's always gonna be a journey to the last day. That's all. I'm gonna be quiet.
You don't have to be quiet. This is what this podcast is for. Talk away. But literally while you're here, so talk all you can. I was gonna say to be like, take the pressure off of yourself to show up in a certain way. Show up, but just show up in the way that best suits you on that day. It's very easier said than done to say don't project in the future, but the society we live in, we kind of don't have a choice but to be like future oriented, but to not be so future oriented that it consumes you to the point where you have an anxiety about it, you stressing the fuck out about it. It's like literally, I can only control what's about to go on in these next 24 hours because I might not wake up tomorrow. I might not, something could alter the course of my life in this moment. And God said now it's time. So I cannot, what is today's energy feel like? what can I focus on today? How can I find my own peace and happiness and joy today? And find like balance. It's like allowing yourself to show up as the day comes and not feeling like you gotta even structure like how you show up for yourself in a sense. And know that, like Mike said, like if you're not where you want to be in your self-image journey, it is a journey. Like the real growth and progress is small, subtle changes that you notice like at the time. It's never, very rarely is there just this one day magically boom and something happens. Miracles happen, of course, but even when miracles happen, there's like a precedence up until that. So understanding that even though you feel like, oh, well, I worked this long and this is a little bit of progress, that's real progress. That's progress that you're not going to decline with because it took time to build and get founded and get strong. Now this is a part of your core. Now grow a little bit more. Boom, give yourself time. Allow yourself to experience each and every day.
Very true. The word I keep hearing is accountability. I just feel like, and I said this on the Reframe Our Thoughts episode, nobody talks worse than me than what I talk to myself. So I think a lot of times we do need to self-assess, be aware, like, where is this stuff stemming from? Am I projecting this on to, other people? Like, a lot of this stuff comes from inside of us, and then, there comes victim blaming, and then we get very comfortable in what we know, no matter how negative it is. So I feel like it is on you to start making those changes. And like Shawana said, I mean, you ain't got to, sign up for a course so you can be healed by next month, but just figuring out, okay, what can I change? So even if it's the self-talk, like Mike said, like, okay, next time I think that, I might have to think a positive thought, or I might have to change the way I think. Learning about what role you're playing in some of those unhealthy relationships, like really seeing your role in whatever it is that is altering or negatively affecting how you see yourself. I just feel like a lot of times we don't want to be accountable for those things, because then we really have to take a hard look at ourselves. But I mean, I feel like that's the only way to make the change, because when you're talking about anything that is relating to self, nobody else can do that for you. So you just gotta be ready to deal with those difficult conversations, realizations that you have to have with yourself. Like, it starts with you. Nobody's gonna swoop in and fix it for you. So yeah, just start taking a hard look at, where is this coming from? How does it show up in my everyday life? And what, little changes can I make so I'm not constantly in this state of mind, or 5 years have went by and I'm still dealing with these same thoughts. Like, I'm not saying they all gonna go away, but you can make little changes to see yourself in a better light. So yeah.
Agreed. Well, I don't have anything else. Mike, do you have anything else left that you would like to give our listeners before we exit out?
The only thing I would say is just like a reiteration, man. Just talk to yourself and speak crazy, speak stupid, crazy, positive things over yourself. Like stuff that don't even make sense. You know what I mean? You gotta talk yourself out of, like stupid positive. Like tell yourself every day you're gonna be a billionaire. You know what I mean? And literally saying that ish every day till it don't sound crazy to you. The only reason people think when people be saying crazy stuff like, I'm gonna be a billionaire, I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be that, you got to start saying that to yourself so much that it don't seem crazy to you, but it seems crazy to everybody else. Because the only reason it seems crazy to everybody else is because they small-minded. You know what I mean? Like, they can't see what you see. And I think we can look in our own lives and everywhere around us and see like what people have spoken crazy, stupid stuff over themselves years ago when they just kept saying it. Now look at them. You know what I mean? Like, so I just urge everybody, that listens to this amazing show, on this amazing platform, just speak crazy, positive, imaginative, wild stuff over yourself on a daily basis, and you'll be amazed like how quickly that stuff starts to manifest, not only physically but also internally.
Thank you.
You want me to do the outro?
Sure.
Before I exit out, Mike, do you want to drop where the people can find you?
Yes. If you ever want to listen to a podcast that is hosted by the world's reigning, defending, undefeated, never had a title taken away from me, single father, my name is Mike Willz. Find me at The Safe Spot. I'm on iHeartRadio. I'm on Spotify. I'm everywhere. You just go there and you type in The Safe Spot, and I come right up with all these dope pictures. And you can find me on Instagram at DA__safe_spot. So it's like this.
Now almost being able to spell the shit.
Safe. Don't hate. We gonna speak crazy, wild stuff that all y'all still gonna find my podcast page, even though I spelled it wrong. But yeah, check me out.
The words will pop up, guys. When you watch this video edited on YouTube, you'll see it'll be up there. Don't mind him.
All right. Well, as always, thank you guys for tuning in, listening. You can find us on various platforms, Brown Skin Blueprint. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram. Comment, talk to us. If you have any topic suggestions, email us, brownskinblueprint@gmail.com. Yeah, I guess we'll see y'all in the next episode.
Yeah, thank you.